Thank you very much for your time, sir. Now, we've seen, for instance, especially during the course of this year, a lot of disruptions in terms of water and even electricity. We've had numerous of our reporters going to the streets to speak to residents about this. How would you say the city of Johannesburg is faring in terms of infrastructure development for these services?
Thank you, Maseho, and good morning. Yes, we had a couple of challenges. But in the main, we were affected by the supply from rainwater. Earlier in the year, it was Aikenhof pump station, which had electricity problems, and which supplies the Hestill, Crosby, and Selby reservoirs, which affected the south in the main. Now, recently, rainwater had a shortage. They had to implement restrictions of about 20%, which affected the entire city. In the main, they have restored some of the supply. We have only one area, Klipfontein View, that is still struggling because they get the supply from Ekurhuleni. So in the main, our problems and challenges was the rainwater supply.
So how are we going to deal with the rainwater supply? Because I believe they announced this week that they'll be slashing amounts to municipalities because of the demand. So how are we going to deal with this? Because at the end of the day, there are people who are expecting to have water because they pay for those services.
Yes, we are in constant negotiations with rainwater to give us priority, but they say all municipalities are equal. Johannesburg is very big with 5.4 million residents. We are the biggest. So we have to make sure that our people have supply. There are instances where people had no water for 5 days. And in those instances, we supply water tanks. But it is unacceptable. We are in constant negotiations with them, but we have decided that the coming week we will write to the Minister of Water Affairs to intervene to make sure that we don't experience these challenges going ahead.
Well, you know, when it comes to infrastructure development in Johannesburg in particular, there's been many incidents where, for instance, people would show their frustration. I'm sure you've seen on Twitter where it's just situations rather such as Eskom implementing load shedding. I know that has nothing to do with you in particular, really. But every time the electricity must come back in some areas, it fails to come back. And every time you must send a team to go look at the same infrastructure that fails to come back. So what's happening, Ndate Moerane, in terms of infrastructure in Johannesburg? It seems in disarray.
Thanks, Mazo. Yes, we do have a problem. When Eskom implements load shedding, when they switch on, the intake sometimes become high and it damages our equipment. That is why they will expect electricity to come back, because at a certain time you have announced, then it doesn't come back. It means that our equipment has been damaged. We have to go and repair. I think it is a fact that our infrastructure is very old. We had a plan prior to 2016 to spend almost 100 billion over the next 10 years to upgrade the infrastructure. Unfortunately, there was a disruption. But we now have a plan. We need to invest. We need to get into private partnerships to upgrade the infrastructure. In the next 10 years, we would need almost 150 billion to upgrade the network, to upgrade our infrastructure, to upgrade our substations, to upgrade our reservoirs, to upgrade our towers. So it's a lot of money. City Power and Joburg, they get almost 1 billion on capital expenditure. But the backlog, it's about 20 billion. So the only way we can solve this problem is to create private partnerships where we'll have 10 key projects. We'll say to you, come build the substation, use your money, we'll pay you over time. So that's the only way we can be able to upgrade our infrastructure. I must say there was a plan prior to 2016. It was disrupted. When we came back in December 2019, we were affected by COVID, but now we are on track. We are trying to raise money. We also spoke to the executive mayor that we need to have an infrastructure fund. Well, because the problem is not only water and electricity. Our road infrastructure, our bridges, are very old. Everything is good. The problem in Johannesburg, we have a lot of people. I think people come to Johannesburg for opportunities, work opportunities, business, and there is an overload on our networks. That is a problem that we are faced. But we do have a plan.
All right, let's bring in Nqobile Madlala, who is in the city of Johannesburg speaking to residents. And I just want MMC for you to listen to what the residents are saying and respond to them. Nqobile, I see you with a lot of residents there looking frustrated. What are they telling you in terms of, water supply in the city of Joburg?
Well, Masego, we did speak to some of the residents that are in the city of Johannesburg, and most of them were talking about how it was difficult for them to go that number of days without water, and also not having being able to express themselves in terms of the complaints that they had sent forward, and not much being said, as well as some of the areas like in North Riding that we're also talking about the fact that there are water that are on the streets, that are running on the streets, not attended to. There are pipe bursts and so on, but the issues at home with regards to water are still escalating, and these issues were not attended to on time. And they were saying that as the restrictions are being put forward, why aren't they looking into making sure that the infrastructure is taken care of and not creating these problems, instead of changing the pressure that they had to deal with, because issues like flushing their own toilets was an issue, and they couldn't simply do such simple things. And this is a basic need, even going as far as calling it a humanitarian issue. But I want to bring in now some of the residents in Ekurhuleni who've also had just about 11 days, Masego, of no water. Ma'am, this must be a very frustrating time for you. Speak to us about how you have navigated so long.
Nqobile, this has gone from being frustrating to now being sheer pain. We are being tortured. And the sad part is that there are no answers. We've been to Ekurhuleni. The guys came to our reservoir, which is located here in Tlorkop. They got there and they tell us there's something wrong with the valve. They bring in Joburg water to come and check the gearbox and check the valves. Joburg water comes and says there's nothing wrong with the valve, there's nothing wrong with the gearbox of the chamber. Now they bring in rainwater. Rainwater, we spoke to Victoria there. She says from their side they've opened the water. They don't know why the water is not coming through. When their team comes on site, rainwater teams, they say no, the meter is reading backwards. That's why we're not getting the water. So there's no explanation as to why we are in this situation, and it's really, really painful now.
What is the way forward? How do you navigate every day without any water?
They bring in tankers, but the water that comes from those tankers is dirty. Some people's stomach are running because of the water, because the water is dirty. You can just see from the water itself. So now we've been going all this time with the water that comes from the tankers. Today, there's no tanker at all. They're saying they were threatened yesterday, so they're not coming, but they don't know who threatened them, because we're here and no one threatened them, so they're not here today. There's no tanker. All the Jojo tanks that are placed around the area, they are empty now. There's no water.
Going forward, what is the community planning to do?
We have no choice now. We are being left with no option. But we're just going to bust ourselves and go do a sit-in at the Ekurhuleni municipality, because they're the ones who owe us answers. Our water comes from Ekurhuleni. But I also feel like City of Joburg has neglected us, because we fall under City of Joburg, even though the water is coming from the Ekurhuleni. So City of Joburg has not been here. No official has come here to come and hear our cry. No official has been on the ground to see what's going on. So we are on our own now, and we have nothing but ourselves to try and sort it out, which we are failing at the moment.
All right, I just want to bring in another resident. Thank you very much, ma'am. So it's also been a very frustrating time. What is going on? What do you want to see happen?
What I would like to see happen is water coming back. All we want is water, and there's no answer on when is the water coming back. Today you get a different story that City of Joburg is responsible. Next day it's rainwater. Next day it's City of Ekurhuleni. So this is causing a confusion. We have kids. We have young kids. Imagine going to work, coming back at 5 o'clock. You have to go and fetch water. In the morning you have to wake up at 3 to go and fetch water. And the water we are fetching, we are not even sure if it's purified or clean. We are just fetching it because we have to fetch it. We need water. That's what we need.
Tell me, what do you want to hear from the City of Joburg?
I want the City of Joburg. I don't want to hear anything from them. All I want is water. I want deliverance. I pay water. I don't miss my water. Every month I pay. I pay this water. So I need it. I want my water.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, Masego clearly said there, they no longer want complaints. They don't want anything. They just want water. No explanation, just water. They want delivery of the water. They're saying that they pay for the service. And just like what South Hills and Laudium and everybody else we've spoken to, they were saying that they pay for the service. It needs to be delivered.
All right, Ngobile Madlala, thank you very much for your time. MMC, you've just heard Ngobile, and obviously she started off by telling us what the people that she visited here in the city of Johannesburg said, and it's a widespread investigation that she's doing. And now she's spoken to another community which says that they actually fall under the city of Joburg, but they get their water from Ekurhuleni and they feel like you've abandoned them.
Masego will not abandon our residents. And I want to assure you the water tankers that we provide is drinkable water, is very clean. If it's dirty, it's unacceptable. I will take it up with the MD of Joburg Water. We can't give dirty water to our people. That's the first part. The second part, the only area that I know it is currently affected in Johannesburg is Klipfontein View, which gets supply from Ekurhuleni. Unfortunately, the reservoir is running very low. And we are in constant communication with them to at least increase their intake so that we can give the people water. But we are assuring them that we're not doing deliberately. We feel bad as well that we can go so many days without water. It's unacceptable. I agree with the residents. It's wrong. We're not going to allow that.
And they pay for these services?
Definitely, but some areas they don't pay, but it's a discussion for another day. But what I want to assure the residents of Johannesburg is that the executive mayor and the MMCs are on the ground on daily basis, checking on failures on service delivery. Yesterday we were in the CBD and we went to LX. So every Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, we put our overalls, we go on the ground, we check what the officials are supposed to do and ensure that they do their work. As politicians, we play an oversight. We have to put pressure on our officials to deliver services to our people. It is critical, it is important.
And it also looks very reactionary from your side, MMC. I mean, if you look at what we discussed earlier in terms of the electricity grid, that looks like it's also starting to fail because every time, like we discussed, Eskom, you'd expect electricity to come at a certain time. But the infrastructure in Johannesburg is too weak to receive that power back to give it to its own residents. And you said that they go and they fix it, but what I'm talking about is you find areas that go through this thing every time. So it means you're reactionary. You're just going there to fix it, and then you wait for another trip.
Well, Masego, unfortunately, you know, when there's a load shedding, there's also issues of vandalism. People see an opportunity to steal our equipment and our cables. By the time it comes back, it's damaged. Last year alone, we lost almost 56 million whenever Eskom implements load shedding. On vandalism, when we replace our switch gears, and more importantly, when there's load shedding, it means you don't have electricity and you're not going to pay. So we have calculated a cost of 56 million that we have lost during load shedding in 1 year. So you can imagine there's also issues of illegal connections and also stealing our equipment. In the West Rand, during the week, we installed a mini-sub for the school. The following day, it was gone. So you can imagine how do you steal a mini-sub, such a big component. I mean, the situation is getting worse.
Sounds like an inside job, MMC.
Yes, but we want community to take responsibility to help us safeguard this infrastructure because it belongs to them. You know, we expect that when we put something, they must also take the responsibility to help us. We cannot put security guards everywhere. We cannot put JMPD everywhere. We rely also on community policing forums to assist us to curb illegal acts of stealing our equipment.
Let's go back to the water situation. It is a crisis, MEC. I think you have to agree with me when it comes to that. Now, we're living in a pandemic where people are expected to wash their hands, where we are told every day about hygiene. What do you say to these residents that go without water for days?
We're saying we feel the pain. We want to give people water, but in instances where rainwater cuts the supply, we have to talk to national government because they are the responsibility of national government. We have our own utilities like Joburg Water. We put pressure on our officials to make sure that people can't go on without water. It is wrong. You're right, we expect people to wash their hands for 20 seconds with soap. And if you don't have that water, it becomes a problem. But we supply water tanks whenever people go without water for more than 1 day. And we can assure our residents that the water tankers that we supply, it's clean, drinkable water. It's actually 98% clean.
All right, MMC, let's leave it there for now. I'm hoping that this won't be something that was just a conversation. The infrastructure really needs to get fixed now. It's been years. We cannot even blame apartheid anymore. It has to be fixed. The ANC government has been in power for quite some time, and I'm sure you'd agree with me that it's taking too long now.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. MMC for Infrastructure Development in the city of Johannesburg, Mpho Merani, thank you very much for your time.